guys go out last night, by the way?
Trying.
Checked out. Did I see you on the cruise ship?
All
right.
Good work.
Well, we've just concluded a very productive summit, and I want to thank the people of Trinidad and Tobago for their wonderful hospitality and their gracious welcome. I want to thank Prime Minister Manning and First Lady Manning and his government for the hospitality they've shown me and our entire delegation. And this summit's been held at a time of great challenge and great opportunity for the United States and the Americas. The consequences of a historic economic crisis are being felt across the hemisphere, putting new pressure on peoples and governments that are already strained. Migration to and from each of our nations has serious implications for all nations. The safety and security of our citizens is endangered by drug trafficking, lawlessness, and a host of other threats. Our energy challenge offers us a chance to unleash our joint economic potential, enhance our security, and protect our planet. And too many citizens are being denied dignity and opportunity and a chance to live out their dreams in Cuba and all across the hemisphere. And these are some of the issues I discussed here in Trinidad and Tobago with leaders like President Garcia of Peru, President Bachelet of Chile, President Uribe of Colombia, President Ramal of Haiti, and Prime Minister Harper of Canada. The subject of many of these meetings and conversations has been launching a new era of partnership between our nations. Over the past few days, we've seen potential positive signs in the nature of the relationship between the United States, Cuba, and Venezuela. But as I've said before, the test for all of us was not simply words, but also deeds. I do believe that the signals sent so far provide at least an opportunity for frank dialogue on a range of issues, including critical areas of democracy and human rights throughout the hemisphere. Now, I do not see eye to eye with every regional leader on every regional issue. And I do not agree with everything that was said at this summit by leaders from other nations. But what we showed here is that we can make progress when we're willing to break free from some of the stale debates and old ideologies that have dominated and distorted the debate in this hemisphere for far too long. We showed that while we have our differences, we can and must work together in areas where we have mutual interest, and where we disagree, we can disagree respectfully. We showed that there are no senior or junior partners in the Americas. We're simply partners committed to advancing a common agenda and overcoming common challenges. And that spirit of shared responsibility was reflected in the achievement of this summit and in the work that the United States has done in concert with nations across Americas. First, we're building on our unprecedented efforts in the United States and on the work that we did at the G20 summit in London to jumpstart job creation, reform a broken financial regulatory system, and put our economies on the path of sustainable growth and shared prosperity. We're tripling the International Monetary Fund's lending capacity. We're urging the Inter-American Development Bank to increase its current lending level. And the United States is launching a new microfinance growth fund for the hemisphere that will make meaningful differences for businesses and entrepreneurs across America. Over the past few days, we also discussed what we can do to ensure that the policies we pursue in our own countries advance and do not undercut our broader regional recovery. Together, these efforts will help drive economic expansion in the United States and across the hemisphere, and ensure that we do not see an erosion of the progress that we've made to lift people out of poverty and into the middle class. Second, we're acting boldly, we are acting swiftly, and we are acting in concert to combat threats that are endangering the safety and security of citizens across the Americas. This week, I traveled to Mexico, where I met with President Calderon to advance our shared commitment to combating the drug cartels, stemming the southbound flow of guns and money, and protecting citizens on both sides of our common border. We are also taking a number of other key steps in concert with our regional partners. So when I went and met with the Central American nations and the Caribbean nations, they had similar concerns, and we pledged to work together to defend our nations and keep our people safe. The United States is investing $30 million in enhanced security partnerships with Caribbean nations to ensure that they have the resources they need to combat drug traffickers seeking to enter their borders from Mexico and Central America. And I'm also making it a priority to ratify the Illicit Trafficking in Firearms Convention and to enhance cooperation with nations across the region to reduce the threat of existing weapons stockpiles. Third, we're taking critical steps to drive our economic expansion, enhance our security, and protect the bounty and beauty of the hemisphere with a new energy climate partnership of the Americas that I've proposed. Through this partnership, we will harness the progress being made by nations across the hemisphere. Brazil's work on biofuels, to Chile's investment in solar power, to Mexico's efforts to curb greenhouse gas emissions, to El Salvador's work on geothermal energy. This is a voluntary and flexible partnership that nations across this region are invited to join. A partnership that will enhance energy efficiency, improve our infrastructure, and support investments that can make energy more affordable. In doing so, we can create the jobs of the future, promote renewable sources of energy, and make the Americas model for cooperation. Meeting these challenges and seizing these opportunities will not be easy. It will not happen overnight. Our efforts to work together may be strained at times by disagreements, and one of the things that I think is going to be critical to do is to make sure that we are working with our respective teams to encourage implementation at a more granular level. Sometimes at these summits we have very lofty statements. There's got to be follow-through across the way. But I firmly believe that if we're willing to break free from the arguments and ideologies of an earlier era and continue to act, as we have at this summit, with a sense of mutual responsibility and mutual respect and mutual interest, then each of our nations can come out of this challenging period stronger and more prosperous, and we can advance opportunity, equality, and security across the Americas. So, with that, let me take some questions. I'm going to start with Edna Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. President. The spotlight on your visit here was on the handshakes and smiles with Hugo Chavez, but we didn't see much interaction with some of the other leftist leaders of the region, like Daniel Ortega, Rafael Correa, or Evo Morales, who yesterday still interfering in its affairs, and even though it's too soon, he says, of not seeing much change. Did you have any private meetings with any of these leaders, and if so, can you tell us what was discussed?
Well, I had meetings with all the leaders, including Daniel Ortega, who was the chairperson of the Central American meeting. I had very cordial conversations with President Morales and President Correa. And I think it's just that President Chavez is better at positioning the cameras. And in all these conversations, here's what I emphasize, that we're not going to agree on every issue, but that as long as we are respectful of democratic processes, as long as we're respectful of principles of sovereignty for all nations, that we can find areas where we can work in common. And my sense is, if you talk to any of those leaders, that they would say that they feel encouraged about the possibility of a more constructive relationship. Now, specifically on the Bolivia issue, I just want to make absolutely clear that I am absolutely opposed and condemn any efforts at violent overthrows of democratically elected governments, wherever it happens in the hemisphere. That is not the policy of our government. That is not how the American people expect their government to conduct themselves. And so I want to be as clear as possible on that. But one of the things that I mentioned in both public remarks as well as private remarks is that the United States obviously has a history in this region that's not always appreciated from the perspective of some, but that what we need to do is try to move forward, and that I am responsible for how this administration acts, and we will be respectful to those democratically elected governments, even when we disagree with them. Scott Wilson, Washington Post.